Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Ask the Experts related to the Digital Breakout 134, the continuation of the session that was presented earlier, Deliver Insights where decisions are made with Power BI. Tonight, we will be going over some quick housekeeping items. My name is Sharon Berg, and then I will pass it along to our panel of experts who will answer some questions for you. So quickly, type your questions into the chat if you have any for us, and that is how we will know your questions. And we will verbally or through chat answer your questions. Feel free to thumbs up any questions that you see that are similar to those that you are asking. That way we know that you want to ask that question as well. We also want to remind you that this session is being recorded. So please do not record it on your side as well. We've also posted the code of conduct in the chat for you to review. Please take a moment and read through that information. And with that, I am just going to go ahead and hand it off to our experts. Please go ahead, start putting your questions in chat. We are here to answer any questions that you have and enjoy the session. Mohammed, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the intro. Hey everyone, my name is Mohammed Ali. I'm a program manager in the Power BI team. I specifically work on natural language and insights. And my team also works on the real-time scenarios. So any questions in that area, I hopefully know a lot about. And I've also worked previously in the AI team for Power BI, and I've also worked in the data flows team. So any questions around there should be fairly good at. Feel free to type in your questions. I think there is a question that someone just typed in. Power BI dataset to appear in Excel, is it only for Office 365 version or is there an add-in to download? If you're trying to access Power BI datasets inside Excel, if I understand correctly, are you trying to create a pivot table? If you are on the newer version of Excel and on a faster ring, and hopefully when Lukasz joins, he'll be able to provide the actual date. You should be able to see datasets as a pivot table inside Excel. Alternatively, you can also go into Power BI and click Analyze in Excel, and that should open up Excel connected against Power BI. I'm not sure if that's what you meant, but yeah, that's the only thing that I can understand from that question. Feel free to respond more, and I'll happily provide more context. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat window. Okay, so someone's got one. Premium Generation 2, will there be a separate license or will it be possible to convert an existing premium license to Generation 2? The pay-as-you-go option. So all premium users will be automatically upgraded to Premium Generation 2. And so they will not notice a difference. Actually, Premium Generation 2 should actually give you better performance due to the nature of the way it's been architected. If you want to then if you then decide to opt into the pay-as-you-go option on top, so that you get the flexible scale out capability, that'll be provided. But all premium licenses will be auto upgraded at some point. It'll be seamless. You won't notice it, and we'll just automatically do the update. However, I think during preview you will be given a choice to just automatically switch over. And so during the preview, when that launches very soon, you can just opt in to accelerate going to the pay-as-you-go model. But when we GA, which will be probably sometime next year, general availability, everyone will be switched over once it goes into GA. So there will no longer be this notion of premium, I'm on Generation 1 versus Generation 2. You'll only notice that until we ensure feature consistency across both Generation 1 and Generation 2 for GA. Okay, so you're using Power Query and you notice that when you're downloading CSV and Excel files from your local drive, when you refresh the Power BI model, some of the queries get stuck in evaluating. It could be stuck there for more than 5 minutes. Any advice to improve the bottleneck? So if the files are really small and simple, it should not be getting stuck at all. I would actually file a support ticket for us to uncover if there's any like underlying bug there. If you're using Power BI data flows, and I'm not sure if you're referring to the fact that is it getting the bottleneck in desktop, or are you getting this in data flows on the Power BI service, or is this during refresh? That would actually help me figure it out, because if you're using data flows, there could be something else as an issue here, which I can explain. But if you can provide just a follow-up to let me know where you're seeing the bottleneck, that would be helpful. I will answer the next one. Will report builders with premium per user license share their insights with non-premium users? So if you have a premium per user license, you will have to you will effectively create a premium per user workspace, so that anything in that workspace could then only be accessed with someone with that premium per user license. So you can't, like, if you create content and you deploy it onto a workspace that's been designated as a premium per user workspace, anyone in that workspace then must have that corresponding license. So if you have a pro license or a free license, you will not be able to access that content. So you can't then share it with anyone who's not of that license type. Hopefully that answered that question. I'll go through some of these really quickly. For nonprofits, what would be the most cost-effective way to deliver Power BI across the organization? I would really look at the Power BI. We somewhere in our documentation page, and I think we'll be able to link it out afterwards. We actually do provide Power BI for free for nonprofits or at a reduced cost. I would heavily look at that and then see. I think also premium is reduced there as well, and so you could just then figure out which licenses you need, and you'll see at the reduced cost. That would be the way I would follow that one. And I'm just gonna let me know if you have any follow-ups. Between Power BI and the data Azure data cloud, Azure doesn't seem to be evolving much. Glad to see certified pro. It will be great to see. So I'm not sure if this has been shared publicly or not, but I'll share it here anyway. That the Azure Data Lake catalog is getting a massive redo, or like getting much love and a needed attention. Power BI is a first-class citizen in the new Azure Data Lake integration, and so you'll start seeing us slowly evolving the lineage view inside ADC. And so we will soon see that kind of capability coming in there. Like ADC is designed to be the solution that you just described here, Terence, around the functionality around custom metadata, data governance, etc. Like seeing what's shared, and that's going to be the mechanism that we're going to do. Hopefully that helps. I will then go to the next one. When is the enhanced compute engine out of preview? So the enhanced compute engine will be leaving preview hopefully by the end of this calendar year, or potentially April next year. Technically, it's and I'll use the terminologies that we've used when we were in the data flows team. It's actually in a GA'd state. The reason why it hasn't GA'd yet is for us to call something general availability, it needs to be available in all regions. It's not available in all regions yet because it's depending on some Azure services being there in all regions, and that isn't there today. So we haven't been able to call it GA because of that fact. So we had a delay of calling it GA. From a feature perspective, it's fully supported. It's in maturity of GA. It's just we're waiting for some rollout to happen. And so I think it was scheduled for the end of the year, but there could be potentially delays especially around Thanksgiving time. So I can't give you a for sure date, but it was originally slated for the end of the year. I just dismissed a question. Let me go back to it. And I think you responded to that question saying it's for desktop. So I'll come back to that question in a second. So I'll go back to the question that was asked earlier around Power Query Online, getting data. You're noticing the issue in desktop. I would actually file a support ticket or around that. I would be surprised, especially unless they're really large CSV files. and you're doing some really complex joins on them, it shouldn't be stuck in evaluation for more than 5 minutes on the desktop. If you are doing complex joins, then I would try to like split the queries out so that one query isn't as complex, or doing a join on something that doesn't need to be joined, and try to delay the operations so that you make use of you do filtering operations before you do the join inside Power Query. But I would file a support ticket for the person that's raised a question around Power Query is giving me trouble on the desktop. And I'll go back to the other question. How are you going to integrate AI with Power BI? I would say that that's a very loose question. We already do integrate out AI in Power BI in several different varieties. One is through the AI visualizations, so like the key influence visual, the decomposition tree, and the anomaly detection visual that we just announced, and the natural language generation visual. So we have capabilities where AI is seen like an aid in helping you get analysis and helping your end users get analysis. We also provide AI through data flows so that you can actually build your own automated machine learning models inside Power BI. And so we integrate AI in different ways, and we also have cognitive services support. Jason, if you have any follow-up to that, feel free. I'll answer the question, but we have several variety of ways of integrating with AI inside Power BI. The next one is when are small multiples coming to Power BI? I believe that it was slated for release in November. I'm not sure if there's a delay, but I can follow up back. But it was slated for November's release. And the small multiples release there's not going to be just one release. We've got several other enhancements coming beyond November, or the initial release, I should say. And so you'll start seeing them. But the initial release was originally scheduled for November. And I'll have to double check if there's a delay there, but I still think it's on schedule unless someone else knows. Lukash, if you know, let me know.
Yeah, I'm not aware of the timeline for it myself.
Okay. Any update or when we'll be able to connect to multiple datasets from within a single Power BI PBX file? So composite models, without reading all the Power Query. So composite models is slated for release, or was slated for release in November. There was a potential slight delay to that. And so it's still scheduled for November, but it could be stretched out to December, January. I'm just being transparent to you guys. It's still scheduled for the end of the year, but there was a slight delay in just getting the finalization done for Power BI Desktop, but it's still scheduled for the end of the year. It could potentially be delayed into January, but so far as I know, it hasn't yet moved to that date. So that, Ed, hopefully that answers your question. I will. The query cache, does it take memory from the premium capacity, or where is it stored? So the query cache for Power BI Premium Generation 2, I'll talk about, just so that we're, I only talk about the new stuff. It will effectively eat into the memory. It won't necessarily eat into the memory of the actual CPU or the capacity. It will actually eat into the CPU of the capacity. So like if you hit the cache, the CPU will still be like churning and to do the processing, but the actual memory will not be counted in Premium Generation 2. I'm going to put a caveat here that Premium Generation 2 hasn't been finalized, because it's not like preview will then allow us to figure out is how much will it eat into the memory of your quota. We haven't actually put it as part of the quota yet. So at the moment, the only cost that you'll hit is the CPU cost for retrieving the data from the cache. When is Office like formatting font selection coming to Power BI Desktop? I actually don't know what you mean by font selection. Lukash? Does that ring a bell to you?
Well, I think the Power BI Desktop fonts are a little bit more limited than what you see in PowerPoint, or what you can use from your system fonts. And so I think that's a great question. So we're on this mission to make Power BI Desktop just like PowerPoint for data. So I think, I can't comment on the timeline for that, but I think you should go over to ideas.powerbi.com and submit an idea. And then we'll see just how many users are actually interested in that capability, and we can see if we can prioritize it in some way.
Great, thanks, Lukash. I'll just How would you
And
deal?
so actually, before we
sorry.
progress on to that, one other thing that I should mention, like the question was really specific to font selection. Now we've done a ton of work, and Kim in the session actually showed a couple of screenshots of how much Power BI Desktop is evolving towards looking and feeling like PowerPoint, adopting ribbons, adopting UI metaphors. We have a number of other investments that we're looking at to make laying out reports with snap lines and so forth that make it feel a little bit more like PowerPoint experience. So that's definitely something that's a core focus of ours. And then the only question is, how much can we do in any unit of time? Because we recognize that there's a lot to do. And so you can look forward to a continuing stream of innovation from us as we make Power BI Desktop a little bit more delightful to use in those scenarios.
Thanks, Lukesh. I'm just trying to go through. This might be a question for you as well, Lukesh. How would you deal with a large amount of data, such as lat long or trucks, and the size of the PBX becoming too large? Yeah,
I think it's a great question, and thanks for Sophia. So data size is always a kind of a question, right? Do I run my analysis on my local machine? Do I build, a service-based model like in Power BI Premium? Do I use a big data solution more like Azure Synapse Analytics? And so I think there's a range that you're going to have to choose based off how much data that you have and how much processing. Sometimes, especially when you have lat long data, it can be very granular data. So some organizations decide that they don't need to show all of that data at once, and what they'll do is they'll find ways of filtering it or bucketing that data to give a representative analysis. But if you're going to really need to do data over a huge amount of lat long, then I would recommend using something like a larger Power BI Premium capacity and storing the model there and then refreshing it there, or and then connecting from Power BI Desktop using a service data set. Or if you have a truly large amount of data, then take a look at Azure Synapse Analytics. The tooling that we have works seamlessly across those. So you can use Power BI Desktop to connect to each one of those, and whichever one will suit your needs at scale.
Thanks, Lukesh. I just responded to the question in chat, but I'll just answer it here as well. Jason asked, will more PQ functionality be added to the UI? Just to give you guys some context of where we are with what the PQ team are doing. We've just made or are going to be releasing very soon in private preview the diagram view, which is effectively a nice visual way of seeing what's the query made out of. The team is working tirelessly on that, and that will be probably releasing at the end of this year or early next year. Once that is complete, we're trying to then bring in the richness of Power Query Online, which is the thing that you see in data flows, and bringing that same experience inside Power BI Desktop. And as part of that, you'll then start seeing improvements in more UI functionality being available that you couldn't, or like advanced functionality that you have to do in writing custom M that would then be available inside the UI. So we're on a journey there. I would say you probably won't see that feature in the next 6 months, but it's something that will start expanding beyond the 6 to 12 months timeframe. And that's what kind of I wrote a slightly briefer answer there.
Wow, Mo, I think you've exhausted the queue of questions, but we're still here for a little while. So if folks have more questions, please don't hesitate to ask. We're here to answer your questions. Well, one thing that we'd love to hear from you, if you just want to leave a comment, is from the things that you saw in the session, what were the things that excited you the most? We'd love to see like what things you think are going to make the biggest benefits in your organization and how you would look to use them if you could use them. So if you don't have a question, feel free to leave a comment. We're more than happy to discuss what we see. So Mo, while we have no questions, what do you think is the most exciting announcement that we gave, that Arun and Kim gave in their session?
So I'm going to be very biased here. One thing that I really enjoyed was and I'm really excited to see how people use the feature is the natural language generation, the thing that generates a natural language description for you as you can drag it drop onto the report. It automatically summarizes your visualizations that are on the page and makes it very accessible for people who want to quickly take a quick glance at the report. And so I say I'm biased there because part of the Q&A capability that my team owns is in there, but I think it's super exciting.
Well, that's great. Hey, look at this. We have a couple more questions that have just come in, I think.
I am checking. The gateway will not allow for refresh data from OneDrive, and I set the data set to no. That's fine.
Yeah, so I think, like us being able to debug this on the phone here is probably not going to happen. So I think maybe the right thing to do is to open that support ticket because I think that's going to give you the highest quality investigation from our side to be able to understand where the underlying issue is and figure out how we can resolve it. So please do, for the gateway issues, connect with our support team for that.
Just to be generic there, because I know there are features that we are planning. We have integrated with, I think we announced this a while back, but it hasn't yet released, is bring your own log analytics, where basically all of Power BI's diagnostic data will effectively land. Eventually, you'll start seeing the refresh time land in there as well, and a breakdown of why the refresh took some, effectively which query in the M steps took so long. That's something that we're going to try to enable in the next 6 to 12 months, so that in the log analytics that you connect to Power BI, you'll start seeing all the raw telemetry events that Power BI uses for our own engineering teams that we use to diagnose why we have issues with our own system. We'll be exposing them to you, so you guys can see exactly how long and what operation took the most time, and compare them across refreshes. That capability is about to release soon. And the refresh data will be available in the next 6 to 12 months. And that will then give you the diagnostic data that you want in general, so you can diagnose these kind of issues yourself.
Hey, so there's a question from Rochelle related to connecting a Power BI report to an Excel workbook or spreadsheet in Microsoft Teams. And then she embedded the report on an intranet site and set the data source credentials to the data set in a particular way using OAuth. And then there's staff that needs to request access to see the report. How can she let everyone in the organization read the report without needing to request access? I think that's a great question. So there's a couple of ways in which you can do that. Now, I think the biggest thing is, for the Power BI report itself, it can have permissions assigned to it, so you could actually share it with a group. So if you did have a organization-wide security group, you could potentially add it there. The other one that I think is interesting is you can actually put that into a Power BI app, and in the Power BI app, there's a allow people in my organization to access the content. So that's going to give you that access permissions. Now, sometimes in the embedded scenarios, if users have never logged into Power BI, they need to log in first to get their account provisioned and group memberships provisioned. So you may still need to provide a link to users to go through that process before they can access your embedded report. But in general, if you use one of those two methods, embedding from an app that was shared correctly or using a security group to share the report, it should work. Now the report, if it's just pulling from your spreadsheet and it's just doing imports, the credentials that you're using for the spreadsheet aren't really the matter for most end users, because the end users are accessing the imported data that's in the report itself and the data set for that report in Power BI. So I hope that gives you a couple of pointers for how you could do that scenario.
Do you want to take the next one there?
Sure, I can read Ed's question. Sure, this might be more of a Power Apps than Power Query, but any plans to provide the Power Query connector to Power Apps so it can build more sophisticated tables using proper joins and so forth beyond the Power Apps functions like filter, add column, etc. Power Automate has this already, so just need it in Power Apps. So Ed, I'm not going to be able to give you the decisive answer on this. What I can say, and I think there are sessions actually on Power Apps at Ignite, so please look those up. They've got a ton of announcements as well that they've been making over the summer, and then again here at this conference too. So do look them up, and maybe they can give you a more precise answer. Broadly speaking, the Power Platform overall, Power BI and Power and Power Virtual Agents and so forth, they all share the same data movement or connectors stack. And so it's really about like which things have been enabled in which service in a particular unit time. So there should be the opportunity to do that, and then just a question of is it something that's coming in a specific unit of time. So reach out to them and ask that specific question. Hopefully you'll be able to get the answer that you're looking for. I can take the next one. So Simon,
just one second. For that specific question, you can actually consider using Power Platform data flows, and Power Platform data flows has a direct connector to Power Apps, and so you can do whatever you effectively the capability that you see in data flows inside Power BI. You can do that directly inside Power Apps, assuming you have the capability of using Power Apps. Oh, sorry, Power Platform data flows. That's the way is the recommended way of doing or achieving what you're trying to do. I misread the question initially, so apologies.
Oh no, that's a great little tidbit, and I just learned something myself too. So let's see. So the next one, Simon is asking about Power BI app in Teams. Is there a setting in the Teams admin that has to be enabled to allow the Power BI app to be added to Teams? And the answer is no. There is a way in the admin center to block the Power BI app in the Teams admin center, though it's enabled by default, so it'll just roll out just like other prime Microsoft apps. And then users can search for it and use it. So yes, you can just go ahead and let that happen in the Teams admin center. And I have a blog post that I published earlier today that talks about the Teams admin center. You can configure policies for apps. And you can choose which apps users can set up. You can even do things like pre-install and pre-pin an app for users so that when they log into Teams, they have the apps that they need. And we'd actually encourage you to think about that for the Power BI app, especially for folks who are using Power BI on a daily basis so that they can easily and quickly find that they have that capability. All right, next one is Hamad. Do you have any plan to add debug functions like VS step in, step out to Power Query and DAX? Mo, do you know the answer to that?
So for PQ, we have query diagnostics released, and we're making improvements to that. That's about as much as we're going to get to like a step-by-step functionality. And also, like when you use PQ today, I would say it's kind of like a step-by-step functionality because you have a sample. And as you click on the steps on the side, you are doing a step-by-step motion, but you can't actually debug the M code. There's no there's not an M debugger. For DAX, I'm not sure if DAX Studio has one, but we don't have any plans to do that yet, unfortunately.
Yeah, and the other thing that I might mention is that in the blog post today, we did announce that there's going to be some improvements, I believe, to just the way that the query designer works for visual data preparation. So that might be a little bit more intuitive for some folks and help you really see how things are coming together. And there's a nifty animated graphic there that shows you what that process looks like. And I'll just shoot a response here on the question with that link so everyone can see it. And it's about halfway down. All right, so it looks like we are getting towards time here. Maybe do we have time for one last question? I think Jason snuck one in, and Mo already answered it. Do we want to? Are there any final words, Julia or Sarah, that we wanted to mention?
I don't think there's any real final words other than thank everyone for joining and asking questions. And we will be posting a link here in the announcements that is a follow-up form. So if there's any questions that you have that you did not get answered, you can just hit that link and submit out a form, and we will have some experts get back to you here in the next week or so. And with that, I'd just like to say thanks to everyone for joining.